Welcome on into the Stroke Limit Reach podcast. I am your host, Nick, here with my co-host, Mike.
Yo.
And we are back with another predictions episode as we continue to pump out some content for you guys going to 2 a week as football season is approaching. So with that being said, we hope everyone has went back and watched our SEC predictions, our ACC predictions, and now we have our Big 12 predictions. So the Big 12, in my opinion, Mike, is one of the most interesting conferences to watch throughout the season because there is a good chunk of the upper half, probably I would say 8-ish teams that are very competitive. Where kind of when you look at the landscape of the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC, it's kind of a lot more narrower of teams that could compete for the conference championship. In my opinion, there's a couple dark horses in this conference. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and get right into it. And I'll go first, unless you want to ride first.
Yeah, I'll go first. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. The Big 12 is my least knowledgeable conference. So if I say something that pisses you off,
Make sure you clip it.
don't hang me in the fucking comments.
Clip
all
it.
right?
We'll make a TikTok out of it.
I did a little bit of research. I enjoy watching the Big 12. I think it's fun football to watch. But I truly don't know who the fucking top dog is. I don't know who the fucking bottom dog is. But this is what I can say. I think my favorite to win the conference is Kansas State. I have them going undefeated in conference play. I think they're the most complete team out there. They've been good recently, and I mean, I just didn't know where else to go. I feel like it's definitely, I don't think, I put 9-0 undefeated conference play. I feel like they lose a game somewhere. But even if they do lose a game somewhere, they're still in it for me. There's not a lot of competition at the top, and I think they're guaranteed to be in.
So give me your next two. We'll do 3 at a time for this one.
All right. So number 2, I have Oklahoma State. I think they're going to get carried heavy in the run game like they've been in the past. Ollie Gordon is one of the best, if not the best, running back in college football right now. And I think Oklahoma State can remain competitive. Their big downfall last year.
What was their record?
Overall record?
Yeah. What did you have their record at?
Let me see. I had them at 7-2 for conference play. For full season, I have them going 10-2 with a loss to Kansas State and a loss to West Virginia.
Okay.
However, the thing that was scary last year about this team is they played their good teams very well, and they played the bad teams very bad. They lost, Southern Georgia or Georgia Southern or whatever?
No, South Alabama.
South Alabama.
Jaguars.
They got beat down by South Alabama. We were at the UCF game, and we watched UCF dominate them like they were fucking Bama.
Yeah, 100%.
This team they were
They're very one-dimensional, in my opinion, on offense, and their defense is good enough to win them games, but when the defense isn't clicking, they're really fucked.
Yeah, like they need everything to work out for them, and they just need to smooth things out in general. They can't be as up and down about how they come to play week by week.
But then they have their high, but then they turn around the season, and then they have their high, and they beat Oklahoma.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like
I feel like this year, the offseason, they definitely spent hashing out some of these inconsistencies and to just get a more stabilized look. I do think when this team is clicking and playing their best, they are one of the better teams in the Big 12. Behind them, I have Kansas also at 7-2 on the conference. I have them going 10-2 as well in the year with a loss to West Virginia and a loss to Kansas State as well. So same exact losses that Oklahoma State has. This team is led by, I believe the wide receiver, his name is McMillan. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe you're right.
Yeah, one of the better wide receivers in college football right now. He's probably easily top 5. And then their quarterback is Jaden Daniels, who I'm not in love with. He's getting a lot of hype. He's been around college football for a long time now.
He's a really good
around
college
from a couple
quarterback.
different teams, but I've never been big on him.
He's just really good college quarterback. He has a lot of weapons. He can throw the ball just enough to. I believe. I think McMillan is on
Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah,
he is.
Absolutely. Who's the Kansas wide receiver that I'm thinking of? McMillan is also, though, like a top 5 receiver.
I don't know. Well, I'll check. But to go back on Jalen Daniels, no, Jalen Daniels.
Jalen, I keep fucking that
They're
up
fucking
too.
so close together. It's pissing me off. But
So Jalen Daniels,
Yeah.
I know he's bounced around from a few different teams,
But he's been at Arizona, or he's been at Kansas now for 3 years.
Okay.
And this is his third year. His problem is he's injury prone, but the thing with him is when he starts, they win. Like that's why they start off 5-0 and 6-0, and because he's a stud, but then he gets hurt and the season kind of crumbles. But I think if he can stay healthy, I think he's a really good quarterback. I don't think he's a next level quarterback, but he almost reminds me of like a Nick Marshall at Auburn back in the day in 2013, where man, he's fucking deadly on the ground running the ball, and he throws a beautiful deep ball, and he can throw just enough to get you about 200 yards a game and win a lot of games for your team. He definitely has some arm talent. That being said, I will go ahead and list off mine because I am a little different than you. Actually, probably I have a couple different teams. I do.
I'm tripping completely, by the way, on the Kansas receiver. I'm looking at their depth chart. None of these are the dudes I was thinking
Yeah, I
of.
was gonna say they have some good receivers, but it's not like a they have an
Yeah, I was
NFL
totally
round
just
one
mistaken which team
prospect.
McMillan was on.
So my conference champion, and it was really hard for me to give them one loss, is Utah. I think Utah goes 11-1, 8-1 in the conference, and pretty much steamrolls every team they play this year. They are my dark horse for the college football playoff. They've got the seventh-year senior coming back playing. God, I mean, in college now you just play as long as you want. I mean, pretty much. But seventh-year senior basically coming back at quarterback. When he's healthy, they are deadly on offense. Okay, last year you take him out, and they're very one-dimensional, run-heavy. You bring him in the mix with his legs and his arm talent, their offense explodes. I mean, remember when he started, I think 2 years ago, they absolutely dominated Oregon twice. That is what I expect to come right back and see. They still have the running backs, they still have the offensive line. Bring him back now. They still have the stud defense. They are my team. I really wanted to write them off as 12-0. When you look at their schedule, especially, let me pull it up real quick. When you look at Utah's schedule, you go Southern Utah, Baylor, Utah State, and then you roll into Oklahoma State. In my opinion, you have a 2 hard game stretch. Good news is you have a bye week in between. That is what's huge. I think you beat Oklahoma State. I think you defend your home turf. You beat Arizona. They have a very high-powered offense, but played no defense. And I think this is a game where Utah is going to slow down their offense and absolutely just pound the rock and score every drive they get the ball. So that being said, I think they go 2-0 there, 3-0 Arizona State. I think they win against TCU. Then they win against Houston, BYU, Colorado, Iowa State. UCF, to me, is the game where it worries me. It's at UCF. It's later in the season. UCF always has some kind of magic. Like Malzahn always has some kind of magic against a team they're not supposed to beat. I think they suffer a loss at the end of the season. There's your 11-1. I really didn't want to do it. I could see them losing to Arizona. I could see them, or not, I'm sorry. I can't see the Arizona loss. I can see the Oklahoma State loss maybe, but you honestly don't know what Oklahoma State team is showing up. And they're really poor last year at the beginning of the season. And this is game 4. So that really scares me. The UCF game with Malzahn, anytime you coach against Malzahn against a team that is very good, you got to be a little nervous. He can pull some rabbits out of the hat and steal that there. So Utah, 11-1, we'll call it, 8-1, either a loss to UCF or Oklahoma State. My team that they'll face in the conference championship and the Dr. Pepper Big 12 championship is K-State. Then K-State goes 11-1, 8-1 in the conference. Then you're going to have 2 11-1, 8-1 teams. I think the Big 12 has a really good chance to get both of them in to the college football playoff. We will release our college football playoff predictions next week before college football starts. But I really like K-State. I really like Utah in this conference. I think they're both sound football teams. I think they both play a good brand of football to make it this far. K-State, for these top contenders, in my opinion, K-State has the hardest schedule. Yeah. You look at it, and you got to play Arizona, Oklahoma State. You have that weird game that everyone's going to hype up Colorado for. You play West Virginia, Kansas. So those games, like you're playing, in my opinion, Kansas, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State and Arizona are on the higher end of this conference, if not the top.
And I don't think as much as we hate Colorado, I don't think Colorado's a pushover.
No, Colorado's going to come to play.
That's a tough 4-game stretch ahead.
And Colorado, no matter what their record is, when you come to the 6th game, and it's you're a undefeated Kansas State probably, or a 1 loss to Oklahoma State,
Colorado wants to beat you.
Yes, and it's going to be a national television, probably night game, and they are going to be extremely excited to play this game. So Kansas State, because of that, This is another team where I'm not going to pencil in one loss. I'm going to wait till end the season and see where that loss is going to come, and I will drop it. I promise you, I'm not going to be like, I fucking said they're going undefeated. But to me, this is one of those teams that is going to suffer some attrition because all these games are pretty much in a row. You got Arizona, then BYU, Oklahoma State, Colorado, West Virginia, Kansas. So it's all right there in the middle of their season. I think they slip up and they lose somewhere. The at West Virginia game, possibly.
They do have a very light back end of the schedule.
They do. They just got to get to that middle of the season unscathed. That is the whole success for Kansas State. That being said, my third and final team, Kansas. I think this is the year where if their quarterback can stay healthy with their schedule, they can get it done. God, they have been one of the hottest teams in college football to start the last 2 seasons. Their quarterback suffering injury. The running back's a very good player. I'm hoping this year that they can kind of keep him limited for hits. Maybe he's learned the last 2 years that, some of these teams can hit hard. And so I'm just hoping he can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, I think this is going to be an absolute record-setting season for Kansas. We're talking about a basketball school where, in my opinion, their football team could be better than basketball this year. If they go 10-2, this is an amazing year. Not to mention, in my opinion, with the new playoff, all of the mayhem that could possibly happen, you never know. You could sit here at 10-2 and make the playoff. Mm-hmm. So, man, if they can pull it off, what a great year it'd be for Kansas. But I'm really excited to watch the Jayhawks this year. So, that being said, I will roll in, unless you got anything about my top 3 teams. I know you shook your head at Utah.
Yeah, I'm going to get a lot of hate for Utah when they come up for me.
I'm sure you are. This is the year for them. If their quarterback is already slated to start, he's healthy.
I just don't believe in a bunch of 28-year-old Mormons that won't graduate college.
Well, that's more okay, first off, it's one guy, okay? And it's their quarterback, and he's really good. That's the problem.
Really good, but yet he lost to Florida. Scum.
Okay, but that was, again, so we'll see what you say after Cam Ward for week 1. But that being said, it's just a tough place to play. But I'll start off my 4th team. So my next 2 teams, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, clip it right now. My next 2 teams are the dark horses for this conference.
Same for me.
They are 2 teams that I think I lied. My next 3 teams are dark horses for this conference, and then I think it kind of drops off in my opinion. Start off first, UCF. You go with the UCF. You bring in the quarterback from Arkansas.
And the backup from Miami, who almost won games when Tyler Van Dyke went down.
And the quarterback for Arkansas. And I think that he comes out here, and especially he's used to playing in the SEC. A lot of people knock him for his arm talent. I think his arm talent's pretty damn good. KJ Jefferson has elite running abilities as a quarterback. He has elite vision in the pocket. He doesn't dance around. He's a very tall guy. He sees the rush coming. He goes to his first 2 progressions, and he runs. He can really hurt you on the ground. And probably one of the hardest players to stop in all of college football in the red zone. Because when you have a 6'6" quarterback at about 240 coming down on you, I don't care who you are, he's falling forward. So the design run game, and mark my words, this is Gus Malzahn, who has had a Cam Newton quarterback and other big-bodied running quarterbacks in his stint at Auburn, where he has a playbook for this guy. I'm not saying this guy's Cam Newton, but he's going to run the same plays. It is going to be a downhill run game with the quarterback in the red zone in short yardage situations, and it's going to be stop us. If you hit me in the backfield, I'm still falling forward getting the first down. So I really like what they have this year. They brought in talent everywhere. They're recruiting at a super high level. They just signed a 4-star receiver out of Cocoa, who was committed to Ohio State. So they are recruiting at a high level. UCF hiring Gus Malzahn and moving to the Big 12 is the best thing they've ever done. Their program's going in the right direction. They have a lot of upside. I think if it's not this year, a couple years down the line, they could be a really hard team to conquer. My next one is a big, big sleeper team. This one could be the one that bites me, in my opinion, but I'll go ahead and say it. Last year, they were pretty decent. It's Texas Tech. Texas Tech is my sleeper team that could be like a UCF. They're very good. They're always amazing on offense. Their defense will be better this year than last. They suffered an early loss last year at Wyoming that they should not have won. But they shouldn't have lost, I'm sorry. They won a lot of games last year, though, that they should not have won. So it's like if you can get both on the same track, this could be your team to beat. Their schedule is extremely easy. Extremely easy. This is why it's your dark horse. They're going to start off the season more than likely 5-0. Then they go and they play Arizona. And here's why I think this is going to be a super interesting game to watch. This is like number 1 offense versus potentially number 2 offense in the Big 12. Texas Tech have a really good offense. They have really good receivers. They got a good quarterback. And you've got Arizona, who has probably the best offense in the Big 12. Just sucks you have no defense. I think it's going to be a super high-scoring game. This is going to be the Big 12 about 5 years ago, where you get a game that's like 62 to fucking 58, some crazy number of people.
Your throwback Texas Tech versus Oklahoma?
Yes, that's what this game's going to be like. It'll be a coin flip. It'll go either way. I think they beat Baylor, TCU, Iowa State, Colorado, potentially Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. My 3 losses that I did give them, though, Mike, if you're looking at it here, is Arizona, Oklahoma State, West Virginia. Those are the 3 losses I have for them, but they are my dark horse. I think they can win every other game. I think they could steal a game at the likes of like West Virginia coming to them at the end of the season, or at Arizona when it's a high-scoring game. Anything can happen. 1 turnover on defense for Arizona, that could put you ahead. So I just think their schedule is ultimately, I think that when I say dark horse, they could come out here win 10 games. They could come out here win 9 games, what I have them slated for right now. I don't really think that they are on the same level as a Kansas at 10 wins or UCF at 9 wins, but their schedule allows them to have this amount of wins, in my opinion. My next team is my 3rd and final dark horse. So my last 2 have been a dark horse. This is my 3rd and final for the conference. That this team is almost on that same level, kind of a hybrid between Texas Tech and UCF, in my opinion. Their schedule's not very difficult, but they've also proved everyone in the country wrong last year. That's West Virginia. Everyone wrote off their coach as, this dude's getting fired. He comes out and goes, what do you know? I think they won 9 games last year, Mike.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were one of the hottest teams in football to end the year.
So I would, and this is something we talked about on the show. If you are a betting man, you know that my money is going on West Virginia plus 10.5 against Penn State. We're talking about a Penn State team that can't fucking score. And you're giving me 10.5 points? I mean, this could end up being a 17-10 game. West Virginia might lose, but bam, you just hit because the spread is so large. Like, that's what scares me with that first game of the season, if you're a Penn State fan, is because, I mean, like, you don't score a lot. Like, West Virginia could, for fuck's sake, take a kickback. I think we'll know a lot about Drew Allar that first game, but let's get back to West Virginia. West Virginia is a pretty good football team. I think they're going to build on what happened last year, and I've got them at that 9-3, 6-3 on this season. And a lot of people are looking at it going, oh, Nick, 9-3, 6-3? How does that make sense? That's because I have them actually beating Penn State on the first game of the season.
Yeah, so I'm looking at West Virginia's schedule last year. It looks like they went 10-3.
Yeah.
With a win against Duquesne to start it off, win against Pitt, win against Texas Tech, win against TCU. They lost to Houston. They lost to Oklahoma State. They beat down UCF, beat down BYU, lost to Oklahoma pretty badly, beat down Cincinnati, barely snuck away with a win against Baylor, and then blew out UNC in the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
I mean, West Virginia's got a tough schedule. They play Kansas State, Arizona, UCF, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State, and Kansas.
And like we already said, start off with a top 10 matchup against Penn State.
This is a super hard schedule, but I think that they built on last year for a team that probably shouldn't have lost to Houston, that could have had 1 loss, okay? So I think this is it for them. Like, I think this is the year for them to get to this 9-win mark. And, man, what a 9-win season when you're playing your 5 top teams in your conference and a fucking top 10 game at the beginning of the season would be a hell of a season. Would do a lot for recruiting. So, yes, Mike, that is my 3rd and final dark horse for this conference.
Yeah, so I liked where you were going at first. Almost agree with you.
You don't like my Texas Tech.
I think, hate your Texas Tech pick.
think it'll prove you wrong. You'll see.
Your Texas Tech pick. And I notice you still don't have an Oklahoma State.
No. I think that you are extremely way too high in Oklahoma State. I have no faith in them. I think that people see what they did towards the end of the year, and they're like, oh, yeah, these are the guys. No. I don't see a chance where Oklahoma State makes it to double-digit wins. I can't see it. Like, I had to do what I could to get them to my position that I have on my sheet. So I'm not a big fan of them.
I mean, well, I'll open it up. I think my 4 and 5 are dark horses, and 2 of them are guys that you said. I have West Virginia at 4. I'm going 7-2 in the conference, 10-2 overall, and I'll up your take of the plus 10.5. I have them money line against Penn State week 1 at plus 300.
Well, I said I think they're going to win on my ranking, but I'm just not going to bet it. I'm going to bet the plus 10.5. It's a safe bet.
So I put in a parlay with a couple other games for week 1.
Don't even talk about it yet. Save it. Save it until it gets closer because it's fucking insane. So don't say it right now.
It's a great parlay.
It's insane.
Cashing. It's cashing. But, I mean, I agree with you. I think they're a dark horse team. They absolutely just started to kind of click towards the end of the season. Really, just all last season, they were really good. They just dropped a couple of games, like the game to UCF and the game to Oklahoma. This is a team that I feel like is just going to continue to build off what they're doing, and I absolutely think they're a dark horse in the Big 12. My team after them, I have UCF, also at 7-2 in the conference, but 9-3 overall. I don't want to give them the loss to Florida, but
You have to. You have to. It's just because it's at Florida is the problem.
I don't want to do it. I don't believe. I think they have a good shot at winning that game. And I know you were going on and on about KJ Jefferson, but everything you described is Ja'Cory Brown, and he's younger. Like, if for what I think KJ Jefferson is going to do very good for UCF this year.
I mean, he did very good for Arkansas. It's the thing. Like, he is going to get drafted.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing. Like, he's good, and he's going to get drafted. Ja'Cory Brown's only a sophomore right now, so he's staying for the long run as long as he doesn't transfer again. He's good. Like, I liked what the flashes I saw. He just needed a little bit more development. And, like, when it came into spring before he transferred, because he was still with Miami during springtime, he looked great. He was battling to try to see if he can compete with Cam Ward. Like, he is good. And he's going to be their QB of the future. So, like, I really like the direction UCF's going in. They're still recruiting out of their fucking mind right now. And like you said, them joining the Big 12 is the best thing they could have ever done. This program is absolutely trying to turn themselves into another team that can battle for King of Florida in a few years type thing. After them, I have Utah. I have Utah 6-3 in the conference, 9-3 overall. I have them a loss to Oklahoma State, Arizona, and UCF. So, I mean, I already spoke a little bit about them. I'm just not as big on Utah as a lot of people are. And I can absolutely be dead wrong and be hated on in the comments for it. But I'm just not in love with this team. I don't think there's anything. Like, I think Cam Rising's a stud, but he's just been so banged up over the last year and a half. Like, I don't know if I trust him anymore. It's not a dude I want to rely on to win me games because he's been so out of the picture for a while. I guess I'll move on to my 7, 8, 9. 7, I have Arizona. I have Arizona going 6-3 in the conference, 9-3 overall. So this is the team I was thinking of with McMillan, and they have the quarterback wide receiver duo. What's the quarterback's name on top?
Yeah, they have. I'll pull it up.
I might have it here actually.
I got it. Hold on. I
Fafita.
did a lot of research on them.
Yeah,
Hold on.
the QB wide receiver combo with Fafita as the quarterback.
You have Noah Fafita.
And McMillan.
Fafita had a 71% completion percentage last year, which is really good in college. And you had, especially you have taken perspective, you had a 71% completion percentage.
71% solid in the NFL as well.
And it's solid in college for how much he threw the ball down the field. Yes, and then you have Taterio. I can't remember now his first name, but it's McMillan, who's arguably, I think, one of he's
like top 3.
But he's I think he's top 3 for his rating right now.
It's
on
like
PFF.
Luther Burden.
So just to put some
him,
crazy stats out for Arizona, this is why I love their offense. They could have one of the best offenses in the country. He had 6 games last year, over 100 yards receiving. He had 2 drops the entire year. Insane. Okay, to build onto it. So I'll just go ahead and segue in here because I also have Arizona next, and I haven't. But the difference is I have them 8-4, 5-3 in the conference. I'm sorry, 5-4 in the conference. I forgot to play 9 games. Is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, one of the highest rated running backs, believe it or not, on PFF, had 1,191 rushing yards last year. This is a crazy stat. 750 of them came after contact. So, dude's a stud, okay? He's from New Mexico State and then transferred to Ole Miss in April. Quinshon Judkins was still there. He couldn't win the job. He left. Quinshon Judkins ends up leaving. So it's like Arizona benefited from this guy jumping shit early. Now he's arguably was going to be one of the top running backs in the country. People kind of forgot about him because he had Arizona. Another guy, though, Quail Conley, they brought in another running back before they got this guy because they didn't have a running back, right? Quail Conley had over 1,100 all-purpose yards last year, 842 rushing yards, 251 receiving, which is kind of big in college. So he'll be more involved in that passing game. So you can take it away from there if you want, or I can segue into how shitty their defense is.
I mean, in general, this team was very good last year. Like, they proved that they were good. The quarterback-wide receiver duo, like, one of the things that you didn't mention, Fifita and McMillan, they grew up together. They played youth football together as kids. Like, they have insane, what's the word? Fucking, like, we're on the same page type shit. Chemistry.
Yeah.
Like, they have insane chemistry between a quarterback and wide receiver. They know exactly what each other's doing. They know exactly how the cut's going to be. Like, they're on the same page at all times, and that makes McMillan just that much more dangerous as a threat. Because his quarterback is his fucking childhood best friend who knows exactly what the fuck he's doing. So offensively, like, this is a terrifying team. Defensively, I can't speak anything on. I don't know much about
defensively.
defense.
I'll dive into them because I have Arizona in the same spot, so I won't talk about it again when I get it. But Arizona, their defensive front seven could be out of 132 teams in college football. Arizona fans, you can flame me. This is my opinion. Look up their fucking grades. Look up their stats, okay? They are probably outside the top 100.
Really?
They're that bad. That is why I can't see them competing for the conference, even with having one of the top offenses in the country. They remind me of Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, but with a shittier defense, which is saying something. Because the games they lost last year wasn't because of their offense. It's because they couldn't stop anybody. Couldn't stop a nosebleed. And I think some of the teams this year, Kansas State, Utah, even UCF, West Virginia, they can't slow those teams down at all if they try to run the ball. That's what scares me.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of their games last year, looking for one of their losses. USC's won 43-41. Washington's another 31-24. Like,
look at some of their early games, though.
That's what I'm looking for. Mississippi State scored 31 on them.
Yeah, which is saying something when they scored 3 on most SEC teams.
Yeah. So
But the thing is though, what's worse is they lost a shit pile of starters on defense and they didn't get anybody in the portal. That's why their defense is going to be outside the top 100. Because last year they were bad. This year they're going to be worse. So they're going in the wrong direction.
This was another team that was just all over the place. I mean, they lost to Mississippi State. They dominated UTEP. They beat Stanford by 1.
Yep. How many points Stanford score?
20.
Yeah. Well, it's like what happened to the offense.
They lost to
week.
Washington, who we know went to the national championship, but they only lost to them by 7. Mm-hmm. They lost to USC, who had a very good offense last year. No one's doubting that, but defense was abysmal. But they lost to them by 2, 43-41. They beat Oregon State by 3, dominated Washington State, beat UCLA pretty badly, snuck away with a win against Colorado by 3. Like, this team was just like up and down. Dominated Utah, dominated Arizona State, and beat Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl by 14.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just have to see how their defense goes. I mean, if they lost more pieces and they really know how to fill, it could be very scary for Arizona. And I like them where I put.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of shootouts, in my opinion, this year for them.
After Arizona, I have Texas Tech at 4-5 in the conference, 7-5 overall. It's just not a team I'm big on. I mean, I know you already spoke a lot about them. I just don't see how they can only sneak away with a few losses. I do agree. I think they start 5-0, like you said. But I don't think they can stop Arizona's offense. I think Arizona will just outscore them. I think at Iowa State's going to be an issue.
I think Iowa State's really bad. Like, really bad.
I do too, but I think being at Iowa State late in the year, November, I just don't see that being like a great game because I don't think this team is very good. Like, I don't think we're going to see this team in a lot of shootouts, like you said, because I don't think they have a shootout-capable quarterback over there. But again, Not a conference I know a lot about. Not a team that I did a lot of film studying on. I just don't see them doing very good. I have them losing the last 4 games of the season at Iowa State versus Colorado, at Oklahoma State versus West Virginia. I have them losing all 4 of those.
I'd say 2-2. Those last 4.
And then my number 9 team is Iowa State. I have them 4-5 in the conference, and I have them 6-6 on the year, with a loss to Iowa, West Virginia, UCF, Kansas, Utah, and Kansas State. But a win over Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Baylor, Houston, Arkansas State, and North Dakota.
So just let me list off my 2, and then I'll continue going here because we already talked about Arizona, who was next for me after Oklahoma State. Personally, I think Arizona is a better offense than 90% of these teams. Like I said, defense outside the top 100, not very good. And let's go to talk about another team's defense who is one of the worst in the fucking country. And that's next team up for me after Arizona is Colorado, 5-7, 3-6 in the conference. I don't think Colorado makes a bowl game. I think this is the season. Ultimately, everyone already knows it's on here on this channel. I hate Colorado. Honestly, it's not that I hate Deion. Like, I think that the media is just sucking his dick, if we're being honest. Like, Deion in his press conferences, he sat there and I watched his press conference talking about the first game of the season coming up against North Dakota State, and he was doing nothing but hyping them up, talking about how good of a football team they are, that who scheduled them, we should have never scheduled this team, like, we don't want to play this team, like, they're a tough team, but we'll be ready. The thing with Deion is I don't think you see him doing all the shit talking that his players are doing. He's got to dial the fucking players in. You never heard Deion talk shit about Oregon. You've seen his players out there stomping on the logo. And then you got ESPN that's sitting here pushing Colorado in front of everybody's faces. Like, personally, no one wanted me. When they were neck and neck with TCU, I was rooting for Colorado. I'm like, fuck yeah, Colorado, do it. Like, upset them. This is awesome. You're upsetting the second best team last year in college football. They won, and then the media just exploded from there. But I do like Deion. I don't know if he's a great coach, in my opinion, for X's and O's, but he is absolutely a great recruiter. And he has put a lot of pieces together. Still, though, don't buy into the media hype, in my opinion. 5-7, 3-6. I don't think they make a bowl game. Their defense is too bad. I think they caught a lot of people by surprise last year, especially in the beginning of their season. When you look at Colorado, mark my words, I would not be surprised to see Nebraska beat the shit out of them. I'm just dead serious. It's at Nebraska. Nebraska should have won that game last year. I don't care what the score says. They fumbled 4 times on their side of the field, dropping fucking snaps. Nebraska now has Dylan Raiola, one of the top recruits. Decommits from Georgia, goes to Nebraska. He's coming in. He's starting immediately. And he's going to play one of the worst.
Calling him the Patrick Mahomes clone.
Yes, and he's going to play one of the worst defenses in college football. And not to mention, Nebraska has one of the top defenses in college football. And everyone knows what Nebraska's going to do, or Colorado's going to do. Give the ball to Travis Hunter. Okay, so I don't think they're going out there and they're catching teams by surprise this year. I do think they go one game better than last year, but I think every team has them circled on their schedule just because of the media and because their players talk so much shit. And ultimately, I think that hurts them because you, as a 5-7 team, you want to go under the radar and steal wins like you did last year. Not everyone being like, fuck yeah, Colorado's on our schedule, let's go. So
what's the record you have for them overall? You said their conference.
5-7, 3-6 in the conference. Yeah. I think they win the first game of the season. I think they lose to Nebraska, right? They will beat Colorado State. I see them beating Baylor. They're losing to UCF. They're losing to Kansas State. They're losing to Arizona. So what's that? 3 right there, 4 losses already. They're losing to Texas Tech, in my opinion. That's 5. They lose to Utah. That's 6. They lose to Kansas. That's 7. Give them a fucking win somewhere else, whether it's the Arizona, the Texas Tech, or somebody, but they're not beating Oklahoma State either. I think it's 7 losses. I don't think a lot of people would argue that. I think their over-under is 5.5 this year. I'd hit the under.
So it's 5.5 or 6.5.
It was 3.5 last year. The 4 hit. I said, this is money. Take the 4. God, man, they make me sweat at the end of last year. But
I know your opinion on them changed quickly, though.
It did.
Because I know I think it was after, like you said, the media.
I was sitting here in our apartment.
You were you were saying fuck them. They're never hitting that 4.5. Like you were against them.
Yeah,
quickly.
Because I was sitting here at the beginning of the season watching them in my apartment, and then they go to this. I see them doing this shit at Oregon, getting stomped, and then they're at the epitome of like those teams you play in high school that all they do is run their mouth, and then they get fucking killed in big games, but are pretenders against little teams. That is to me was Colorado, but. They go out there and they're like, oh, we're getting ready for Oregon, and you go out there and you fucking let Stanford.
I don't know if I should name drop a high school that I can say that fits that.
No, just keep it to yourself. Okay. Keep it to yourself. So, Colorado 5-7, 3-6. Iowa State, another bad football team in my opinion. 5-7, 3-6. Iowa State, in my opinion, their coach is getting fired. Like they have went downhill so fast since they lost. Brees Hall, who played there?
Yeah.
And the quarterback, can't remember his name, but they're at the same time. They were winning like 10 games a season, 9 games a season.
Was that
COVID hit, they have never recovered. They've been terrible since.
No, I'm thinking of Bailey Zappi, but he played for who the fuck did Bailey Zappi
Who's the kid at who's the kid that's at Kansas City, or not Kansas City, the 49ers?
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy was their quarterback with Brees Hall. And now look at it, and you're looking back going, yeah, well, obviously they were winning 10 games a season. They had 2 fucking starters in the NFL on their offense right next to each other. So, yeah. I think that was just like them getting lucky.
Sure said Bailey Zappi went to Western Kentucky? I thought
he
went to...
No, he went to Western Kentucky, and he set a lot of records. He threw for like over 6,000 yards in a season.
He's got the season record for passing yards.
It was Western Kentucky.
Was it really?
This is when they were really good. They were ripping off like 9 wins.
I thought it was like North Dakota. No, I'm thinking
North Dakota
of fucking Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Move on.
So after that, I'm going to keep rolling, Mike, since I already got my 2 there. I'm going to do my next 3. TCU, 5-7, 3-6. This is another team that struck gold
What rank
while
are you
hot.
in now? Just so I can make sure.
Halfway through. I'm the first one past the ones you've already said.
Okay.
So TCU 5-7, 3-6. This is a team I think that just needs to recruit. I think they struck lightning in a bottle with their run to the national championship, but ultimately it's still bad. I'm just running through these teams; they're not good. BYU, like UCF, in my opinion, great decision to join a conference. Fuck you, Notre Dame, for staying independent. BYU joining the conference, I think this is a great idea. Them and UCF joining this conference to become the Power Four, to have an easier option now to get into the playoff with 12 teams is going to help recruiting tremendously. I just don't think BYU is there right now. 4-8, not a very good football team. Houston. I think Houston ultimately is going to be greatly improved this season than last. That being said, 3-9, 1-8. I'm just saying, like, they're going in the right direction. Last year was really bad.
Yeah.
This year, I think, will be bad, but it's going to be hard for their fans to watch, but they are going in the right direction. Okay, I like their coach. And I like how they're recruiting. Baylor, Dave Aranda, fired. He's gone this year. Calling it right now, 3-9, 1-8. Send them off. So those are my next 3, Mike. If you want me to just finish out my final 2.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about these.
Arizona State, 2-10, 1-8. I mean, what scandal is not surrounding Arizona State right now? It's like we had paying players. We had all sorts of fucking sexual harassment charges. We got fucking players betting. And I'm like, what? What the fuck are we doing? That's like, they're like, they must have watched Iowa State last year with their players betting on themselves and been like, let's fucking do that. Like, it's just an absolute disaster. Gone.
Hey, A-State, I think, is like the biggest party college campus in the fucking country.
Well, they are the number 1 biggest college in the United States. Did you know
Really?
that? Yes. You know number 2 is? UCF. Yeah.
Really?
Yep. So that makes you wonder, like, how the fuck do these guys have 40,000 stadiums? Well, what are they doing? They're not, obviously, whatever they're doing for college life to get
UCF,
to games.
like, they don't, to me, UCF is like a non-existent campus.
Yeah, well, UCF, I think, has...
It's just randomly embedded in the fucking
greater
UCF part
has
of the crater.
66,000 students, and Arizona State has over 75K. Yeah, so they're like way up and away from everyone else. Yeah, just a cool little fun fact for you guys. Cincinnati, 2-10, 0-9. When their coach left to go to Wisconsin, he buried the program. Honestly, though, I think it was a good decision for him. I don't know if staying, he would have kept the players. They would have been in a much better position, but Wisconsin is a way bigger powerhouse than Cincinnati. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's just crazy because we're not even that far from when they were in the playoffs.
You have to remember, though, he took a lot of players with him. Yeah. A lot of players with him, and Just sometimes in this era of football with the transfer portal, that's how it happens. But again, another props for them to join the Big 12. They'll ultimately go in the right direction. In my opinion, Cincinnati and Houston are always teams that are super competitive in the group of five. And I think these teams are just not set up with talent like UCF was.
Not yet, but
I think they're going to use this conference to recruit better, and they are going to start challenging the top at some point. So that being said, that is my teams. Mike, take away your last five, I think.
Yeah, last five. So I have Colorado at 10. I have them 3-6 in the conference and 6-6 overall, a little bit higher than what Nick had. I agree for the most part with exactly what he said. I mean, this is a team that I think they're going to play with heart, if that's what heart or cockiness, whatever you think it is, with every single game. I think they could win every game they play. I don't think that's true, though.
You know where I think would be a really good fit? Because here's my opinion with Deion. I think Deion is going to start.
I don't like him as a head coach.
Well, here's the thing. I think Deion's going to start seeing that he can't get it done in Colorado. Like, he's going to see this at some point. And in my opinion, he's not going to hang it up. He's going to try to go somewhere else. Does Deion, because this is just my hot take, I think that even though they paid Lincoln Riley the bag at USC, I think if Lincoln Riley has like 2 bad seasons, they end up firing him, would they look at Deion? Because that would fit his aura, the hype around LA. He would bring in everybody in the state of California.
And it's already a big recruiting hotbed. It's not like trying to convince these fucking studs to come
I really think that it sucks that UCLA had Chip Kelly step away at this time, because that's where I thought he was going. I thought that for sure Chip Kelly was going to get fired in 2 years. Colorado's not going to work out. Here comes Deion to UCLA, taking all these recruits from USC. But now, it puts it a lot harder. USC, in my opinion, is like in that situation where you've got the NFL, where it's like you pay him too much. He's got a fucking private jet. He's in the city. You can't fire him. But
yeah,
go ahead and take it. It was a little hot take.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a terrible hot take to have. Like, I could totally see him trying to bail out to one of the bigger programs as easier for someone like him who can already convince studs to come play for him.
Yeah, that's my thing. But
it's one thing if you're trying to convince studs to come play for Boulder, Colorado, and one thing for them to try to come play at fucking
USC.
Yeah, in LA and a fucking big hotbed over in South California, and with a big name brand already the Trojans already got. So I could see that. I think Colorado's issues, I think they got playmakers, right? When it comes to skill positions, I think they are pretty set up well for skill positions. My concern with them is so heavy on the offensive and defensive line, which they allegedly addressed heavy this offseason. I don't think it was enough.
Allegedly. I already see people roasting them. They posted their defensive coordinator got on there and in a fucking interview and said, we got bullets flying from everywhere with this D-line. And I see people in the comments
was it the defense coordinator or was that the Warren Sapp interview?
Oh, Warren Sapp, their D-line coach, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then people are
Traitor.
And then people are putting down there in the comments, what are they talking about, firing blanks? Because I'm like, you guys aren't fooling anybody. But
yeah, and that's the Deion effect too. Is you're able to get past Hall of Famers to come fucking coach for your team, to even then convince more fucking stud high school athletes to come play for you, like Warren Sapp. Even though I would love it if Warren Sapp could just come back fucking home to Miami and come coach D-line there, because we already have a great defensive line program. Just come fucking help out, come to your alma mater, but it's fine. Go follow Deion. But I don't know. I'm just not in love with the team. I think they still have holes to fix. I think when this year's over and Shedeur and fucking Travis Hunter both leave for the NFL,
downhill quick.
I don't think they have the pieces to replace those two. I'm not huge on Shedeur.
Probably broke them too.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not huge on Shedeur as a quarterback prospect in the NFL, but he is talented.
He's just
he's freaky athletic.
He's one of the best college quarterbacks currently, playing. He could win you games.
Yeah. He's a crazy athlete. He's very talented, but I don't see him performing well in the NFL. Now, Travis Hunter, I think, could be a fucking amazing corner. And I think the biggest issue is, last year, he proved he can play both ways.
You know what my problem with him is, if you're going to talk about him?
Go ahead.
My problem with Travis Hunter is I've watched him now last year and this year. He can't leave after this year. He's got one more year. He was a freshman last year, right?
He wasn't.
Oh, he played at Jackson State.
He was at Jackson
State. So here's my thing. This is a third-year college player. And I'm watching him in spring practice and watching the highlights and watching his interviews. what the fuck is Deion's strength and conditioning program? This dude has not gotten bigger since getting in college. No. And I think that is his problem. Like, that you saw the Stanford kid do it, just fucking manhandled him the whole game. And that's why...
If you go back and watch that game,
he gave
most of his shit was against other corners. Specifically Deion, it was like 5 catches, 125 yards. Sorry, on Travis Hunter, it was like 5 catches, 120 yards. Granted, one of them was for like a 75-yard touchdown.
That was one receiver.
Yeah, but he dominated the entire team. And 1 touchdown. And his big plays was that big 75-yarder and the final catch where he had top Travis
But my thing, there was so many times watching him last year, even in other close games, Colorado State, where there's guys open. And my thing is any contested ball, there are other guys winning. Like, that's my thing with him. I think he would be a better wide receiver in the NFL.
I disagree. Absolute opposite. I think he would be a significantly better corner. I think he has insane instincts. I think his biggest issue is Deion treats Travis Hunter like he's Deion. He is on an island every single time.
Deion was also a big motherfucker, though, that came down and hit people. Like, Travis Hunter is like a fucking scrawny string bean out there.
Yeah,
like,
I'm just saying, in coverage specifically, he treats him like he's Deion. Whenever you see him and it's man coverage, there's never a safety over top. The safety's always helping out the backside dude. So Travis Hunter, in his thing, he needs to work on technique because he sucks at getting the jam and the press off the line of scrimmage. So he's immediately put in almost like a trail technique, damn near off his third step. Now, he's fast as fuck and athletic enough. He can catch up to these guys. But like playing both ways absolutely deters him from being the best version of a position that he can be. I think as a corner, he has some of the best instincts and coverage, specifically in zone, that I've seen come from any other DB recently.
Do you think, though, that his head is too high and he's about to go to the Caleb Williams effect, though, saying that he's not going to sign with the team unless he plays both ways? I think there's a good chance.
I hope not.
I think he's hyped up too much and that Deion's not doing him a favor by saying, son, if you want to play at the next level, play fucking defense.
Either or. My thing is,
I play offense.
If he plays just corner, I think he's a top 3 corner in college football. If he plays just wide receiver, I think he's probably like maybe top 10 wide receiver.
Not to mention,
just because he's a crazy athlete, but
think about the amount of injury that he has somehow avoided last season by playing 100 and something plays a game.
This one thing I will give Travis Hunter, that man's got fucking cardio.
No, you have to. He doesn't practice every day.
Dude's probably running each game thousands of yards, just sprinting back and forth.
But personally, I think they play a lot more tougher teams this season.
Yes.
And I think that I don't want to ever root for someone to get injured. But I'm just saying, this guy playing both ways, 100 plays a game, he's going to get injured. Like, something's going to happen. He's going to roll an ankle. Yeah. Because anytime, you played football, I played football. Anytime you take a play off and you start to lackadaisical run, that's when injuries happen. You sprain your ankle, you hyperextend your knee, you get blindside hip, especially because you're a guy that people want to hit.
Start cutting corners and start getting away from your technique.
Yeah, so that's what worries me with him. And then they even had the guy returning fucking kicks and shit last year. Like, I just don't think Deion's doing him any favors.
If this dude commits to one position, I could see him trying to go top 3, top 5 in the NFL draft. If he doesn't do that, I could see him going down to like the 15 mark because he is still crazy athletic.
He's going to be
But these NFL teams are going to tell him he is playing one position. And he needs to figure that out before he gets there. But, I mean, that's just my rant on Colorado. Moving on from them, I got Baylor, 3-6 in the conference, 4-8 overall. TCU, 3-6 in the conference. Where the fuck are they? 5-7 overall.
It's the same I had, yeah.
Arizona State, 2-7 in the conference, 4-8 overall.
The last 4 are really bad.
Yeah, Cincinnati 2-7 in the conference. I have them 3-9 overall. BYU 1-8 in the conference, 3-9 overall. Houston 0-9 in the conference, 1-11 overall.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not big on. I feel like the Big 12, unlike the other conferences, like we saw a ton of teams hanging out at that like 500 mark. I feel like in the Big 12, it just the talent level declines super quickly. And that's because the Big 12 is probably the biggest change of team conference out there. They lost 2 of their big name guys.
A lot of new group of 5 teams.
Yeah,
a
ton of new group of 5s, Pac-12s. Like they just took on a bunch of teams from all over the place. And it's going to take a while for this conference to kind of balance out and get kind of a localized program.
Only thing with them though is what's saving them is their middle to top half is probably 7-ish, 8-ish is pretty solid. So like they are not going to be, in my opinion, they are still leagues ahead of 5 or 6 years ago when it was scoring 60 points a game, and it was like Texas, Oklahoma. We're going to see them both in the conference final. Yeah. Texas, Oklahoma, here they come. Now all of a sudden you're seeing TCU that one year, Kansas State beating TCU in that year,
Arizona,
Kansas, Arizona,
Oklahoma State.
I mean, they're starting to emerge. They're starting to come to the top. So this conference, I think, is definitely going in the right direction. And they were hyperactive when the SEC, started taking people, and so did the Big Ten.
Yeah, because I don't know if any of these teams are top-end talent that can go to head-to-head with some of the best of the other conferences. I don't know if I'd put any of these teams like above your or in competition with like your Georgias, your Bamas, your Ohio States, and your Oregons. But they do have a talent gap when it comes to the top and the bottom. And it's a team that the conference as a whole just needs a few more years to continue developing, continue building against continuity to where you don't just have anymore, like you said, Oklahoma and Texas just carrying the fucking load.
Yep.
Like a lot of these other teams are going to start getting their own talent and getting more diverse and actually being competitive. I think we're still just a few years away from that.
And guys, we're getting so close. This will be the last weekend without college football. And if you want to keep up to date and see all our predictions, as well as some of the new cool stuff we have coming out on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you find your podcast, follow us on all those platforms. You can also support the show. We have a plan link. It's in all of our descriptions for all of our pages. And you guys can support the show there, as well as we'll answer questions live. And that is going to be huge during the season when you guys have questions and you're like, hey, Nick, ESPN over here is telling me Colorado's fixing to beat Nebraska. And I'm like, hey, ESPN's fucking retarded. This is why. So give us a follow, man. Support the show. We have so much coming for you guys. It's going to be so fun. Until next time, Big Ten episode. I'll just go ahead and break you the news. Special show. We're going to have a Michigan fan and an Ohio State fan on the show at the same time. It is going to be absolutely hilarious. So make sure you tune in. Until next time.
Yep.